In early 2026, the Central Intelligence Agency of the United States launched a highly conspicuous public campaign aimed at recruiting Chinese military officers and other officials as informants, a move that reflects the evolving strategic competition between Washington and Beijing. The campaign included the release of a Chinese-language recruitment video on platforms such as YouTube and social media channels depicting a fictional People's Liberation Army officer expressing disillusionment with the leadership's corruption and the personal risks for loyal officers, designed to resonate with target audiences inside China despite the country's strict internet censorship. And this effort followed previous CIA outreach in May 2025 that used similar Mandarin-language videos targeted at Chinese Communist Party members with instructions on how to securely contact U.S. intelligence, illustrating a widening approach to human intelligence collection on China as part of broader U.S. efforts to counter what American officials view as China's growing global influence, technological advancements, and military modernization. The campaign's timing, shortly after the high-profile purge and investigation of senior Chinese military leader Zhang Youxia, vice chairman of China's Central Military Commission, in late 2025, appeared designed to exploit possible internal dissent within the People's Liberation Army and to encourage officers disillusioned by political campaigns and anti-corruption measures to consider cooperating with U.S. agencies, a tactic that U.S. intelligence sources say has previously reached millions of Chinese citizens and inspired news sources, even as Beijing's counterintelligence apparatus remains formidable. These recruitment videos form part of an intensified competition often described by analysts as resembling a modern Cold War dynamic between the world's two largest economies and military powers, with espionage and counterespionage operations increasingly out in the open, including public denunciations and legal charges related to foreign interference on both sides of the relationship. The CIA's recruitment campaign that emerged in early 2026 was built around a public Chinese-language video titled in broad terms, such as Save the Future, featuring a narrative in which a fictional mid-level officer questions the motives and actions of superiors within the People's Liberation Army, articulating sentiments about internal corruption, distrust of leadership, and the precariousness of loyalty. Themes intended to appeal to personnel who may feel detached from the goals or rewards of their service. The narrator in Mandarin asserts that their power is built on countless lies, a clear reference to corruption and internal power struggles, while subtlety encouraging viewers to contemplate alternative allegiances or secure channels of communication with U.S. intelligence, a proposition that would be extremely sensitive and dangerous for any Chinese officer to pursue, given Beijing's stringent counterintelligence mechanisms, legal prohibitions against unauthorized contact with foreign intelligence services, and punitive penalties for breaches in national security. The video was disseminated via platforms including YouTube, X, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, an intentional strategy by U.S. agencies to penetrate the so-called Great Firewall and reach audiences inside China through VPNs and proxy access. Understanding that many of these services are otherwise blocked domestically. According to CIA officials, recruitment content from prior campaigns had garnered millions of views, suggesting that even in highly restricted cyberspace environments, strategic messaging can achieve broad dissemination and potentially identify cooperative individuals, though specifics on any resulting informants have not been publicly disclosed by U.S. authorities. The recruitment effort also underscored an expanded approach to tradecraft by U.S. intelligence, in which public outreach and psychological messaging play roles alongside traditional clandestine operations, a shift reportedly driven by the need to rebuild networks that were severely compromised when Chinese counterintelligence dismantled previous CIA sources in the early 2010s, resulting in the loss of numerous informants through imprisonment, exposure, or even execution, and leaving gaps that Washington seeks to fill amid intensifying geopolitical rivalry with Beijing. Beijing's official reaction to the CIA's recruitment videos has been swift and unequivocal, with Chinese government spokespeople and state security agencies condemning the campaigns as blatant provocations, political interference, and violations of China's sovereignty and international norms. In May 2025, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian stated that the recruitment videos represented a serious infringement on China's national interest and pure political provocation, accused the United States of maliciously smearing and attacking China, and vowed that Beijing would take all necessary measures to counter such infiltration and sabotage activities, reflecting deeply held suspicions in China about foreign intelligence operations and a resolve to counter them within legal and security frameworks. China's Ministry of State Security went further, dismissing the CIA's public recruitment advertisements as a farcical performance that highlighted what it described as American paranoia and incompetence, and accusing the U.S. agency of violating the fundamental norms of international relations and undermining international order and trust, rhetoric framed to bolster domestic narratives about foreign plots and the necessity of vigilance against espionage. Outside of official statements, Chinese state media coverage emphasized the illegality and unacceptability of recruitment ads targeting Chinese personnel, portraying them as reckless and disrespectful of China's sovereignty, and highlighting Beijing's commitment to safeguarding national security and development interests against foreign interference, a theme consistent with broader Chinese strategic media messaging. International observers noted that such exchanges are part of long-standing intelligence rivalries between major powers, and that public denunciations are as much diplomatic signaling as they are security responses, underlining the sensitive interplay between espionage, statecraft, and public opinion in an era of heightened U.S. China competition over technology, military influence, and global governance. To understand the significance of the CIA's recruitment initiative in 2026, it is essential to frame it within the broader historical context of U.S. China intelligence competition, which has intensified over the past 2 decades amid shifting geopolitical priorities, economic interdependence, and strategic rivalries. Historically, the CIA and other U.S. intelligence agencies place substantial emphasis on cultivating human intelligence sources within China, but these efforts suffered major setbacks in the early 2010s when Chinese counterintelligence operations, employing both technical surveillance and human countermeasures, successfully penetrated and dismantled portions of the CIA's network, resulting in the capture, incarceration, or elimination of assets, and forcing Washington to recalibrate its approach to intelligence collection. This experience underscored the risks inherent in clandestine human networks in authoritarian contexts with robust internal security apparatuses, and contributed to a renewed emphasis on signals intelligence and technological surveillance. Yet the persistent strategic importance of China as both an economic powerhouse and a military competitor ensured that human remained a priority, even as methods evolved to balance secrecy with outreach, including public-facing recruitment content. The use of public videos represents a notable departure from traditional espionage norms, suggesting a willingness by U.S. agencies to experiment with psychological operations and narrative appeals to potential informants, a strategy that parallels broader geopolitical dynamics in which information campaigns and influence operations have become central tools in great power competition. Analysts have observed that both the United States and China engage in extensive espionage and counterespionage activities globally, and that public incident responses, such as arrests for foreign interference or official condemnations of recruitment efforts, serve as both security measures and diplomatic signals, reinforcing national stances on sovereignty, allegiance, and global order. The current recruitment drive, therefore, not only aims to fill tactical intelligence gaps, but also reflects an overarching struggle for advantage in military, technological, and political domains, where informational access can translate into strategic leverage, and where public narratives around recruitment, betrayal, and loyalty are deployed as instruments in the larger contest between world powers. Looking ahead, the implications of the CIA's recruitment strategy for Chinese military officers and government officials extend across multiple dimensions: intelligence, diplomatic relations, domestic politics, and international security, as both Washington and Beijing navigate an increasingly fraught bilateral relationship marked by competition and distrust. In intelligence terms, any successful recruitment of personnel with access to classified information could yield insights into China's strategic intentions, military capabilities, and internal decision-making, potentially informing U.S. analyses and policy decisions. Yet the risks for those who consider cooperation are substantial given China's legal prohibitions against unauthorized contact with foreign intelligence services, the ever-present threat of detection by robust counterintelligence mechanisms, and the severe personal penalties that would follow discovery. Diplomatically, the public nature of these recruitment videos complicates U.S. China ties by inviting official rebukes that can escalate tensions and shape narratives about each side's respect for sovereignty and internal affairs, with Beijing likely to use such incidents to justify tighter controls on information flows and to reinforce narratives about foreign threats to national stability. Domestically within China, state responses to perceived external recruitment efforts may bolster internal security policies and political messaging aimed at consolidating loyalty and deterring dissent, a dynamic that could harden attitudes toward foreign influence and limit avenues for private communication across borders. On the U.S. side, the move signals an acknowledgement by intelligence leadership of the centrality of China to national security concerns and a willingness to adapt tradecraft even in public settings. A shift that could influence how intelligence agencies globally think about leveraging media and narrative appeals in contested spaces. In the broader international security landscape, such recruitment efforts and the responses they provoke underscore the blurred lines between intelligence operations and public diplomacy in a world of digital communication and competing political systems, highlighting how information campaigns, countermeasures, strategic signaling, and public narratives are now integral to statecraft. Ultimately, whether these recruitment videos yield meaningful human intelligence remains an open question, but their existence is itself a testament to the depth of U.S. China rivalry and the role of espionage as both a tactical and symbolic arena in great power competition.